And I am good to go. David's good to go. I'll count us down in, wait, I need to use the other clock. Three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb's an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now we air the real estate. Now we air your real estate voice. Do it again. Now we air your real estate voice every Saturday. And if you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or just go ahead and search for Barb on most of the popular podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, as well as the others. Every week, your real estate voice covers great information about the housing market and one of your largest assets, your home. Barb, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, Richard, what we're seeing right now in the market is more and more sellers are having to reduce their price just to entice a buyer to make an offer. And there are some sellers that are actually withdrawing from the marketplace right now and waiting until next spring to go on the market because they're already sitting on low interest rates and they can wait. So it's really an interesting market. And we'll go into some detail about what some of the experts are predicting, what we'll see going through the holiday season and going forward from there. And then the second topic is about how to get your home ready for sale. If you're going to do the full-on traditional sale process versus selling to a cash buyer, buyers will eliminate homes initially online based on the pictures and the pricing. So those two things have to be right, followed by how does it present and how does it compare to the competition? So we're going to go over some tips on what you can do in order to prepare. And a lot of people are looking way in advance of when they want to sell, especially right now. And then the third topic we're going to talk about are some of the very interesting contract provisions that a home seller really needs to pay attention to, that they should watch carefully when they accept a contract from a buyer, because in this state, the contracts are very buyer friendly. And the buyer has all these opportunities to bail out, no harm, no foul, get their earnest money back. But when it comes to the seller, there are very few outs. And many times the buyer is demanding that they move out prior to closing. That way they can move right in on closing day, yet they can still walk away on closing day and get their earnest money back. So we're going to talk about some contract provisions to protect sellers. And then the very last topic is, why would a home seller or buyer do business with one agent over another? And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Barb, the real estate market has had some recent turmoil, which could be good for buyers and not so good for sellers. You are so good at this. Please explain it to us, Barb.
Well, thank you. New stats are just in from the Pikes Peak region. I'm pretty sure it's consistent really all across the country. Typically, what we see is that prices tend to go up through probably June in the early part of the year. And then what happens the rest of the year really depends on how much inventory there is and where the rates are going. So for the last 2 years, in 2023 and in 2022, the interest rates for mortgages really spiked up the latter half of the year. Last year, we saw rates over 8%. The year before, that was the first time they increased the rates from the threes, and it started in the summer. And by the time the summer was over, the rates were around 7.5. So it really created a lot of demand destruction for buyers, and surged up the inventory at the same time because it was all about affordability. Buyers buy on house payments. But what we're seeing this year, which is different than the last 2 years, is the number of available homes on the market has really spiked up over 35% as compared to a year ago. And that's interesting to me. So as we have more inventory, there's more houses for buyers to choose from, meaning more competition. So it's hard to look back on what just sold a few months ago and say, my home is similar to that, it should sell at that price. It's just not working right now. And the result is, just in the past week, 17% of home sellers have lowered their price. That's, if you calculate that number based on a monthly basis, that's almost 70% of home sellers are reducing their price, and only 14% got contracts. Now it's a little better than the week before, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the rates are coming down right now, and that's a good thing. But long term, the price reductions are the thing that's going on right now, because it's hard to judge in a declining market, where is the market going? And so as we have lower rates, it will mean that some buyers are going to get back in the game, but a lot of them are just kind of standing by, waiting to see where the bottom is on interest rates. I think the Fed's going to meet next week. So we don't really know where it's going. We do know that right now, mortgage applications, even though the rates are a full point and a quarter, even though the rates are a full 1.25% below what they were in the springtime, we're still seeing lower buyer volume and lower number of sales as compared to the springtime. Some of that could be seasonality. I know in the Pikes Peak region, there's a lot of military that tend to transfer, April, May, June, that timeframe, whereas other areas it may not be affected by that. But the other thing that we're seeing, which is really a surprise, is that there are more sellers withdrawing from the market. So they had their house on the market, it's not selling, they're sitting on nice low interest rates. So they're like, well, I'll just wait until the springtime when the prices peaked out. So if you look at the numbers in the beginning part of the year, the average amount of increase from the year before was 3 to 5% higher. We've given up all that ground now going into the fall, and that's mostly because there's a lot more inventory, even though the rates are lower. So one of the experts I follow said that for every 2 home sales, there's one seller that's actually going to withdraw their house on the market and wait until prices improve and then go back on the market again at that time. And I think that's really interesting. The reason they're doing it is that most home sellers are sitting on really low interest rates. They might have gotten their mortgage really anytime between 2008 and 2022, essentially, they would have gotten really, really low rates. So it's not as expensive. And so maybe they wait until the springtime when the prices come up a little bit. So what we're seeing really is the increase is speak, Barb. What we're seeing really is that the inventory is going up, right? But it's not really that different than what we saw last year. And the thing that really struck me when I was looking at the statistical data is if you go back to previous years, like from 2018 through 2021, inventory was actually higher at that time. So we're at lower inventory overall, but still more than last year. And so as we see pending contracts maybe tick up as the rates go down and sellers withdraw their home from the market because they're not getting the price that they want, it could mean another situation where the inventory drops again because the rates are down, number of available homes is down. That means fewer homes to compete with for sellers. And we could see kind of a bottom, meaning it's not going to go any lower. So I think that's good news. And as of today, the rates were for a conventional loan, 30-year fixed, it's at 6.25%. VA is down at 5.72%. Those are great rates. And if you couple that with buying down your interest rates, it can make the home pretty close to being as affordable as it was during the boom. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next month or so. But basically right now, if you need to sell right now, it's really important that you get what I call all the 4 Ps right: preparation, picking the right agent, pricing it right, and promoting the home so that you get top dollar. I was just on the phone with a home seller yesterday that's really frustrated. His home has been sitting on the market for 110 days. And it wasn't so much a pricing problem with this home. When he had me review it, it was a marketing problem. The agent was too cheap to spend $200 to $300 and get professional photos. This is a beautiful home that backs to open space and a great location. But he used his smartphone to take pictures and they were dark. They weren't wide angle. They didn't show off the real attributes of the room. So he really has a marketing problem more than anything else at the worst possible time when prices are starting to correct like 3 to 5%. So we'll see what happens on that one. So if you'd like to get a free report on the 7 tips on how to get your house ready to sell for top dollar, you can go to barbhasthebuyers.com and click on the green button for free reports. And if you're selling now, it's really critical that you price your home what I call realistically versus optimistically. My name is Barb Schlinker. I am the host of the show, your real estate voice, and the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, barbhasthebuyers.com. And we're talking about how prices are dropping and more sellers are withdrawing from the marketplace until the spring. And when we come back, we're going to talk about just a few things that might help a home seller get the right price when they're selling right now. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900. We not only have over 27,000, almost 970 buyers in waiting, but we also have our cash buyers that can make the experience go quickly and well for you. So call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, we're talking about the current real estate market and how people can be prepared if they want to buy or sell a home. What should home sellers expect and do in a market situation just like this one?
Well, I'm seeing that there are probably a lot of buyers sitting on the sideline waiting until it's affordable, waiting until they can handle the rates. But it's been my experience in all these years that in any market, when a home is priced aggressively, what I call very realistically, the buyers seem to have a natural nose for finding deals, right? And they're all over it. So I tell sellers, even though it's counterintuitive, that they're always going to get the most money if they price it just slightly below the full market value, if not more, to generate multiple offers, and then they get to pick the best buyer. I think that's what you can expect going forward. So going into the holiday, it is possible if some sellers decide to wait to sell, we could see a decrease in inventory, especially if the rates keep coming down. And you have to be prepared when you're ready to go. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900. We have 27,970 buyers in waiting, plus our 70 high net worth cash buyers that might make the right offer for your home. Call us now, 719-301-3900 or barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or go ahead and visit her website, barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how to get your home ready for sale. Stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. Bingo. Bad. Did that go faster than I thought?
It did.
Felt like it. Okay, excellent. As they would say on Wayne's World, Wayne's World. Have you ever seen that sketch, Barb? It's they used to have these guys down in the basement of their mom's house, and they would do this like, what would you? It's not local TV. It's like through the library or something a while back. It was a big deal where UHF, you could have your own little TV show. And so they're doing that. And it's a pretty funny part of the show always, but they actually had Aerosmith on the show. So they did the skit with Aerosmith coming down into their basement and doing the show with them, and then actually singing their little theme song, Wayne's World, Wayne's World. It's party time. It's excellent. I'll send you a link to it. It's a lot funnier if you see it than just listen to me describe it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, it's good.
Smith.
You gonna watch the debate tonight?
Oh yeah, I lined out my schedule. So,
It should be interesting. Um, there is so much for him to get into. And I guess Bongino was talking about it. CNN, and this is kind of hard to believe, but they were carrying this story where, and it's true, Kamala Harris was offering for people elsewhere in the world to come to the United States and the US would pay for their transition surgery.
who would
I'm
want
like,
to do
wait,
that?
what, right? What the hell? I mean,
What? Transition to what?
to be from a man to a woman, woman to a man. So you live, let's say, in Sweden, and you want to have that surgery. Oh, you don't have to do it in Sweden. Go to the United States, be an immigrant, and they'll pay for everything over there.
Oh, great.
So, I mean, I don't know if I'll probably say this on the air, but you're going to have an influx of people who are confused about their gender coming here, and we're supposed to pay for it. You got to be kidding me, but they're not kidding us.
Sickening, actually.
It is.
And it's weird. It's like, why would you, how is that going to change the world and make people vote for you? I would say a majority of people aren't into that, you know?
Well, you know what? And I don't mean we're behind schedule. I shouldn't talk so much, but I have to say, and I was talking to a Democrat on text. I'm like, how in the world did this whole trans thing and drag queens and all of this stuff become such a big deal to the Democrat Party? I don't get it. It's there aren't enough people out there who would really support all of that stuff to justify it. So I got to just believe it's, themselves or people they know, or, a lot of times it doesn't make sense because the public doesn't want it, but all of the friends of Kamala Harris want it. So that's what you do. Okay. I got a new clock. I got a new attitude. I'm focused. I'm not thinking about Kamala Harris.
Surprising it was on CNN.
That's what Bongino was saying. He's totally shocked. He's like, okay, what's going on here? I mean, whenever you see something, there's always a reason. And it's not apparent what the reason is, but there's something. There's something.
Yeah.
And, is it so that she'll do horrible tonight and then they can replace her again? I don't know. All right. I'm good. You good, David's good. Barb, you good?
Yep, I'm ready.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, most people are very concerned about preparing their home for sale. Many want to know what steps to take to make the very most of the biggest investment of their life. So, what are some key things that home sellers need to do to get their homes ready for that big sale?
Well, I would say number one, you got to pick a selling strategy. Not everybody's going to put their home on the market and make it look like a really pretty house and everything's remodeled and all that. Not everybody does that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as it's priced appropriately for the strategy, is fine. Like I met with the seller last weekend and they're going to go as is, right? That means there's a different price for that, right? We're still going to market, but we're going to market to a different group of buyers, right? But if you are marketing towards a live in the home buyer, it really depends on the price range that you're in. Like if you're real high end, there's a certain expectation, especially like in the kitchen, probably tile counters is not so great. People don't like tile counters in the kitchen anyway, but if you have it, it's fine. But on the higher end price point, it could be perceived as a negative, whereas on the lower end price point, it might be a positive. So you have to have somebody that really understands what is that fine line of, do I need to put in granite counters or quartz counters or not, right? And I had one, I think I've told this story before, Richard, about it was an older fountain property. It was an inherited home. And the siblings were selling it. One of the siblings was living there. And I'll never forget the day I walked in the door, I was struck at the bright red, brazen hussy red shag carpet on the main level. It was something else. And they said, oh yeah, well, there's hardwood under that. That carpet's new. It was put in 1985. And I'm like,
Well,
okay,
hold on. I mean, I remember the 80s. It was kind of right on the borderline in the 80s in terms of being acceptable.
I think so too. But anyway, so originally I thought, well, maybe we pull that red shag carpet and just recoat the hardwood floors because everybody loves hardwood. But at the end of the day, it would have been more expensive to do that versus just pull that carpet and put fresh carpet down. And in that price range, it was appropriate to pick the least expensive choice. If you were in a higher price range, maybe hardwood floors would have been more desirable, right? But in that price range, it was just right. So the seller spent $2,500 putting in new carpet, and they sold the house for $30,000 over asking price. So flooring is a big deal. You have to get that right, unless if you're going like as a fixer as is. Some other little things that you can do that are basically not too expensive. The big key rooms are curb appeal, the backyard, the view, the living room, the kitchen, the master bathroom, and the master bedroom. You don't have to worry about every nook and cranny of the house. You don't have to have your garage looking great. You don't have to have the inside of closets looking great. Although if you overstuff them, and I have been in a house before with a buyer where the seller just so overstuffed the closets, it gave the impression that there wasn't enough storage, right? It didn't go over very well. So you really do want to kind of parse things down as you're getting ready to sell. And the key closet you need to really neutralize, or not neutralize, but make it not too overstuffed, would be the master closet. Everything off the floor, put your shoes up high instead of on the floor, and just pack away seasonal things that you're not going to wear, because that is one of the closets that buyers absolutely take a look at, and they want to know, will my stuff fit in here, right? We don't take pictures of closets generally when they're occupied because they just don't photograph very well. But you want to make sure that's an area that you get to, but it could be last on that list. So curb appeal is critical, followed by the backyard, the view, followed by the living room, then the kitchen. So when you get to the kitchen, make sure that things aren't broken, that your appliances match if possible. I was just in a house a couple days ago where there was a kind of a mismatch of paint. Easy fix. You just need to paint to make it look consistent. Or, broken formica, that kind of thing really is a negative. So you just have to look at those things. And, a lot of people really don't know how to decide on a real estate agent. Most of them just kind of go with whoever they knew before. And they don't really interview them to find out what is their expertise, because selling the home is a different project as compared to working a buyer. Like as a buyer, it's more of, it's like shopping for a car. You just go in and go, okay, I love it. I take it. How do I get this financed? But when you're selling, it depends on your strategy, what your goals are. And I will tell you, Richard, a huge majority of the sellers that I meet with tell me they want the most money when they sell, which is totally understandable. But some are more realistic and they might say, hey, I'm open to a cash buyer because I don't want to have to deal with buyers coming through my house. I don't want to have to make my home neat and tidy, or I have kids or dogs or cats or whatever, that would disrupt my ability to show the home appropriately to really motivate a buyer to want to make an offer. So I get that. And we have solutions for them, which include our cash offer program. Another tip that's really important is to make sure it's clean. Simple thing you would think, but even just walking up to the front door, this time of year, we start to get leaves blown in on the front door, and the front doorbell is broken. I see that all the time. And the buyers may not overtly say anything, but it drops in the back of their mind. Okay, the doorbell's broken. What else is broken as they're walking into the house? So you want to make a good impression. Put some flowers outside, do something. And odors are a huge deal. I can't tell you how important odors are. Um, even though people that live in the home, they may not really notice it because they live in it all the time. But the best way you can tell is just go for a short walk outside and then have your doors closed and walk back in and take a deep breath. You should be able to smell it if there is an odor. The worst odors that we run into are pet odor, pet urine. Some people don't even know that they're living with that because they got so used to it. Other odors could be um, maybe heavy cooking smells, like if you made something with a lot of garlic or you've got a crock pot on that puts this really strong smell in the house. Uh, don't do that when you're showing your home. Try other choices when cooking dinner, because a lot of times the showings will actually take place during dinner hours, right? Because it's especially during the week, the buyers will want to go look at homes as they get off. Depersonalized. So a lot of people assume that that means take every picture of every family member off the wall. That's just not true. It means minimize the clutter, everything off the counters, everything off the tables. Um, don't have a whole I love me wall of family pictures when you're showing, right? It's okay to have one or two family photos, but a whole wall of your life story when a buyer comes through and on photographs, which is your first showing, they get distracted by that and they're not focused on the house itself. You want them to visualize themselves living in there. Also, light is really, really important. I always tell people to open up the blinds, let the outside in, turn on all the lights possible, because and lighten up the bedding. You don't want this heavy, dark print, especially in the master, because it just looks, it's distracting. It looks dated. You want just fresh and light and neutral. Um, so my name is Barb Schlinker. I am the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. I'm also the host of the show Real Estate Voice. And what we're talking about are basically how to get your home ready for sale, some tips on how to do that. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some other things that will make a huge difference about whether or not you get top dollar for your home. And if you are thinking of selling, give us a call at 719-301-3900, or you could visit barbhasthebuyers.com. There's a free, no cost, no obligation consultation that we will give you if you're interested. Tips on what to do, what not to do to get your house ready for sale, and a range of where your home will sell and how much you'll put in your pocket when it sells. If you're interested in that, please call us or go to barbhasthebuyers.com and we'd love to help you out. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And you can listen to replays of the show anytime on all of the major podcast platforms, YouTube channel for Barb Schlinker as well. And if you're thinking of making that move, call Barb, 719-301-3900. Barb, we're talking about the top 15 tips to sell your home for top dollar. Give us the rest of those tips.
Well, I think one tip that's very important is you want to focus on those 6 key rooms. So outside, front, curb appeal, followed by the backyard, the view. So give the yard a haircut if it needs it. Make sure the backyard looks neat and tidy. And then the next room actually is the living room in the list of priorities. You want to make sure that the living room isn't over cluttered with furniture, that there's it feels spacious and people can visualize themselves living there. And I'm a believer that actually an occupied home with furniture or a home with furniture shows better than empty rooms. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to move out to show my house. And it shows better with furniture. Now, we have a workaround. We can digitally stage rooms. We don't have to have your furniture there if you do move out. But they do look better with uh, life in the room, because there is a certain segment of the population that when they look at a picture, if it's an empty room, sometimes they can't even tell what room it is or what the room is for, and especially they can't tell whether or not their furniture will fit. That's partially why we work on staging. If there's any confusion going on, we want to make sure the home is presented properly to the market. Another part of marketing, believe it or not, is pricing. So what has changed over the years? You know, long gone are the days of the buyers going and looking at a bunch of homes, and if they like it, they make an offer and negotiate. You have to understand that your very first showing is online. People are making decisions based on how the home is presented online as to whether or not they're going to spend their gas money or their time going to look at the home. So I often get the question, well, won't they just make me an offer? Won't they negotiate? And the answer is they won't even come look at it if they think it's overpriced. So pricing is absolutely a huge part of the process of getting your home ready for sale. You need to attract them because people are looking online. They can see all the homes around you. These websites give a lot of data nowadays. It'll show what other homes have sold for around you. It'll show what your competition looks like. And if it doesn't look like a home that represents that it's being offered at a price that makes it look like it's a good buy for a buyer, they won't even come and see it. They just won't. So you really have to hire the right person that knows how to attract a buyer and help you get it priced right. And believe it or not, pricing high does not mean you're going to get the highest price. It's actually just the opposite. Pricing on the low end means that you're going to get the highest price. And we know how to do that. So, make sure that before you sign with a realtor that you really evaluate how they're approaching promoting the home, their marketing strategy, their pricing strategy, because we know that buyers eliminate most of the homes on the internet. They won't even ask to come in and see it if something is wrong with the marketing or the pricing, and we can help you do that. We've helped a lot of home sellers do it. And we want to make sure that you have a good experience when you sell. And of course, you can always ask us questions about it. We'll be happy to come out and give you a free in-home consultation on what to do and what not to do to get your house ready for sale. So give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Real Estate Voice. Gosh dang it. You know what? I keep forgetting to mark that little bit there. I'm sorry. Let me go back and do that again.
Okay.
You're listening to Barb Schlinker on Your Real Estate Voice. And if you're thinking of making a move on your home, you want to buy or sell, you certainly want to get the most amount of money, call Barb at 719-301-3900. Or as always, visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the 6 big reasons to call your home sold guaranteed realty when you're ready to sell your home.
Actually, I messed that up. The next segment is contract provisions that home sellers should
I
watch.
should look up there. We'll do that again. I didn't like it anyway. 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Barb Schlinker. She is your real estate voice and the host of the program. If you're thinking of selling your home, you want to get the most amount of money, it's your biggest investment, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. A short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about when we come back, we'll be talking about contract provisions that home sellers should watch out for. We'll talk with Barb about that. Or wait, let me just do that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about when we come back, we're going to be talking about contract provisions. Barb's going to tell you what you ought to be looking out for. Stay tuned for that. I like you doing it, and I apologize. I've got a tooth thing, and there are some P's like that and some S's that just don't want to work until I see my dentist again, but I can't do that until after the election because he's like, well, you're not going to be able to talk very well for a couple of weeks. I'm like,
Uh-oh.
that's kind of what I do for a living.
That's hard.
That's how I'm paying the bills.
Yeah. So, I mean, he makes it sound like it's going to sound pretty bad. I'm like, well, then we'll have to wait till after the election. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that then, but
Right.
we all
Wow.
have problems, right?
Yeah, that's quite a tool. Man. Okay.
Let's see here. I got a new one. Clock, a new one. Stop, reset. Do you want me to put this in at the very beginning and just mention casually getting a real estate license doesn't entail learning anything about contracts or how to negotiate, or you probably do learn about contracts.
That's actually a good idea because it doesn't.
Okay.
Doesn't.
I'll intro it that way then. I'm ready. David's ready. You ready, Barb?
Sure.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the program, and this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, a real estate sale is a business and a legal transaction that must be in writing. I know that a real estate license doesn't mean that you've been educated on contracts or negotiating, and those contracts can be very intimidating for some folks. What are some contractual provisions that home sellers ought to be watching out for and that you know about?
Yeah, I think the training is very weak in this area. Even real estate agents probably don't fully understand every little section of the contract. It's not that it's hard to read, it's just that they don't pay attention to it, right? So, but I kind of learned this more and more as the years went on because I had people that were asking me questions about it, customers basically that said, "Hey, what's that mean? Well, we shouldn't be checking this box." So, agents are naturally not wired to be high detail people, and yet most of the population is. So, I think these contracts, people really need to pay attention to it. And what's interesting is in the state, there's no obligation for the agent to explain the contract. They kind of leave it on the consumer's lap to figure out what the contract means and to understand what they're signing. And I like to go over the whole contract with them. I'll either do it in person or do it on video, just so they're fully aware of what they're signing, because they don't do this every day. Most either buyer or seller, it's a 20-page contract, and they have to understand what's in there and what it means because they don't like surprises. And the state of Colorado is very much a buyer-friendly state. What I mean by that is it's on the buyer to do their own due diligence to make sure that the home would work for them in all aspects, in its condition, whether or not they have clear title, whether or not the repairs, whether or not it's appraised, the source of water, all aspects of the house. It's on the buyer. So the buyer has a whole bunch of opportunities to bail out of the contract if they're not satisfied. And I'll go so far as to say the way the contracts are structured in the state of Colorado, a buyer, if you're not properly protected by your agent, could walk away at the closing table and get their earnest money back. Imagine you'd moved out of your house, Richard, thinking you have a sale and the buyer walks.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And yet that happens.
It does happen, and it's the worst day ever when that happens. So, all licensed agents must use the same state form. It's a state written contract to buy and sell. It's supposed to be designed to protect the consumers. In my view, it is written by lawyers, but it really protects the buyer more than the seller. Once a seller commits to a contract, there's no way for them to get out of it. If they do, there could be, legal penalties if they do. Whereas if the buyer gets out of it, they get their earnest money back, they go find another house, right? So that's why it's really critical to hire somebody that understands the contract and explains it to you so you know. Buyers have at least 8 different ways to get out of the contract. And then sellers often think that once they have a contract, it's a done deal and we're going to the finish line, but not so much. And the problem is sellers are packing, they're planning their move while the buyers are doing their due diligence. So it's almost like an intent to buy contract. The buyers are going to buy if they get approved for their loan, if they like their loan, if they're okay with their title and the title is clear, if they're okay with the survey, if they make their contract contingent on a survey, if they like the rules around the HOA, if the house passes the inspection, if the house passes the appraisal, and the buyer doesn't change their mind. So it's a big if on all of those. And generally the inspection is probably the one area where a majority of contracts fail. There are minimum 33 different systems that come under scrutiny. And there are 33 different systems that come under scrutiny when a home inspection takes place. And some of these are pretty much unexpected by sellers. Probably the most common things that we see that cause the sellers to have to repair, replace items are sewer lines, septic lines, the brand of the electrical panel, the potability or quality of the water if they have a well. Roofs are very, very common. Plumbing, mold. Mold isn't that common there, but if it is there, there's a expensive process you have to go through. And it does say in the contract that the home is sold as is, where is, with all its faults. But it never really works out that way, or rarely works out that way, let me say. So, you know, the contracts often, these agents will try, especially if they're up against competition with another buyer, they'll try to write something in the contract that gives the seller a warm fuzzy, like, oh, you know, we're going to limit our request for inspection just to health, safety, plumbing, electrical, and roofing, which is pretty much all of it. Or, you know, they ask for stuff, which is ridiculous. We want a new furnace just because the existing furnace or water heaters are old. Or we want new windows because they're old. Or, you know, they do stuff like that. And it's weird. Other states are quite different. Like in the state of Texas, you basically have 10 days to perform or not, at which point after your earnest money is 100% non-refundable. That is not the case here in Colorado. And if you don't hire an agent that really understands these contracts, the earnest money could be refundable at closing, even though now, okay, you think you're going to closing as a seller, you're getting all packed up, the house no longer looks show ready, right? And you've scheduled your mover and you've got all these stars aligning, you got your destination picked up, and then the buyer walks away, right? So that could be a real nightmare. Some other problems that come up are for if a buyer's getting government loans, like a VA or an FHA type financing. In those cases, the house condition has to pass those standards. Now, it's not really that strict. A lot of people think, oh my God, my house will never pass VA or FHA. But some of the things that they will ask to be repaired are peeling paint on the peeling paint on the outside of the home, missing outlet covers, broken windows, just general safety tips like trip hazards, window wells that somebody, an animal or a kid could fall into, fences falling down, that kind of stuff. What the contract doesn't say is who fixes it, right? And we've had cases where the buyer fixes it so they can get their VA financing, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then at the very last minute, there's a final walkthrough just prior to closing. That usually freaks sellers out. Like, why are they doing that? It's in the contract that they're doing that. Theoretically, it's to confirm that whatever agreed upon inspection repairs are done and the home is as expected. They didn't, you know, tear out walls or do something crazy, right? But many agents use this as an opportunity to leverage, and we're not going to close unless we get it our way. I've seen that too many times, and it's really frustrating for home sellers. So those are some of the things that you have to be aware of when you're going through a traditional sales process. It's not nearly as strict when you use the cash offer program, because they pretty much do their inspection and they're like, all right, we're going to give you, take this much off for whatever we think the repairs are going to be, and we're done. We're done. And you know for sure you're getting to the finish line. Either way, we can help you. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. And we can sit down and give you an idea what your home will sell for. We'll show up with multiple offers, something that most agents don't do. And we'll be able to give you a really good idea on how much you'll put in your pocket when it sells. So just go to barbhasthebuyers.com or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
Barb, we're talking about the real estate contracts and provisions that can be inserted into a contract to protect sellers. We know that buyers have plenty of ways to get out of a contract, but what are some contract provisions that can actually help the sellers? Tell us about them.
Well, a sale contingency is something that may not help the seller. unless they are using it when they're buying their next home. Because most people want to have their destination lined up when they're selling their home, right? Maybe they're going to move house to house from this house to the next. And that can work out fine, especially if you make an offer on your next home after you pass the inspection process of this home. That would give your seller on the other end a pretty good warm fuzzy that we're going to get to the finish line. There are an awful lot of buyers out there that have a house to sell. And if you're receiving an offer like that on a buyer that has a house to sell, how do you know you're protected, right? If somebody makes an offer and says, hey, Mr. Seller, will you wait for me to sell my home? I want to buy your home. Here's my really good offer, except I need to sell my home, but it's not even on the market yet. For most home sellers, they're kind of like, it's not enough. There's too much uncertainty there to know it's going to go through. And I don't care what kind of sales pitch you get from agents, because I do get them. Let me tell you, oh, don't worry, it'll sell fast. I'm just so sure of it. We're going to price it right. And then when you watch what they do, if the seller does accept that offer, they don't price it right. They don't go on the market when they're supposed to, and they reject decent offers that come in. So it can be really frustrating to accept a sale contingency, but there are solutions for that. We actually have cash buyers that will buy their home so they could buy your home without a sale contingency. That's huge. Nobody else offers that. But there is a way to work it out. Plus, we make sure we keep marketing that home until your deal is firm. And the reason for that is if you tell the world that, oh, the seller accepted a sale contingency, our local MLS has this really dumb criteria that you're supposed to put the house in that says the seller accepted a sale contingency, and everybody's supposed to know that they've done that. But if you have a buyer that doesn't have a house to sell, you could kick them off. Well, it doesn't show up online that way. All the big box websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, and all that tell the world that the home is not available. So I don't work it that way. So you need to have somebody that really knows how to deal with it. Inspections is another thing. We just worked one deal where basically the buyer couldn't go any higher in price. So the seller's like, all right, fine, I'll accept it, but it's truly going to be as is. And it's working out that way, which is really good. They did an inspection, they found a few issues, but they're like, we're good, we're going to closing, and everything's working fine on that. Earnest money deposit. So the way the state contracts are written, they are fully refundable, even at the finish line. We have provisions we can put in our contract to make sure that the seller is protected if they have gone to the expense of moving out. And then we've got this new paragraph that is how the buyer's agent gets paid. It's paragraph 29. It says X percentage is either paid by the seller or paid by the buyer or paid by a negotiation between the agents. That is now negotiable, okay? And what I'm seeing is a lot of the agents are calling and going, well, how much commission is offered? So they're doing this before they're showing the house, because maybe they've already written an agreement saying, well, I get 3%, and the buyer doesn't want to pay their fee. So therefore, I won't even show your house because they're not going to pay my fee. And it's insane. It's putting your income in between what the buyer wants. And everything is negotiable. You should be able to work it out. You should be able to make a good enough offer. And this is what I tell the agents. Hey, you can get as much as you want to make. It really depends on the merits of your offer. So if you have an agreement with your buyer to pay him 3%, make the offer good enough to motivate the seller to want to pay that. But they won't do it. They won't even show the house if they don't have confirmation that they're going to make that money, which is insane. If you are thinking of making a move, we can take care of you on all these contract provisions. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. We have over 27,970 buyers in waiting just on our little website, over 700 buyers that are a high match for any home, plus our cash buyers. So call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about why do business with one agent over another one. Plus, we'll talk about Barb's hot new listings. You don't want to miss any of that. There you go.
So I did this show, close to the same show, exactly a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I tried to mix it up in just
Yeah.
the way I say it. Hopefully it's not too much inside baseball.
No, you know what? I think this is a compliment to you. When you go to some of this stuff, and it actually is what I think, would be described as inside baseball, you always explain, and I mean, always explain why this might be inside baseball, but I know it. And more importantly, it's important to you. You don't necessarily need to know it in detail, but it's important that you know it's out there, it's on my radar, and I'm going to take care of it. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And you do it very well.
That, and I think people like a peek behind the curtain.
They do. Yeah. No question about that.
Thank you for saying those words.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's just, and I don't, and actually you do it in a way that is clear that not everybody has this experience or this ability, but you also do it in a way that you're not, personally maligning anybody. But I don't think there's any question but that ought to be something if you already got a real estate agent, you're thinking about hiring them, this ought to be something you're asking them about. So how many homes have you sold? How long have you been doing this? How many contracts have you negotiated? I mean, all of those things, because I just know that there are people out there who are hiring somebody that their aunt told them, well, my niece is doing a really good job. She just got started. Can you help her a little bit by having her sell your home? No, I want to get every penny I can. This biggest investment of my life. Tell your damn niece to go out and learn more, or go to work for Barb and learn how to do it. Then maybe I'll think about hiring her, but not until then. You can just tell her to go over with somebody who just goes along to get along, spends more time on her hair and having commercials made like Tiffany Locknet than negotiating contracts and making sure that you don't have squatters in your home when you moved out to buy another home and you had the catch-22. Did Tiffany Locknet tell you that? No, she just came prancing down the aisle and said, Sean Hannity, and what? You're going to have her sell your home? For God's sakes, people, wake up. I'm sorry. I thought if I said that, I know. I thought if I said that now, I wouldn't say it in the middle of the show. I'll be right back.
Gotcha.
Yes. He fell, I guess, and got.
Yeah, we can't put that on YouTube.
So you're making fun of an old man who's,
That's funny. We're gonna have to pick it off and then send this line. Okay. One more to go. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. New clock here. I finally took a lesson from you, Barb. I am putting it to some of the other media because that Venezuelan gang is in Colorado Springs and has been in Colorado Springs. And the Gazette has done nothing about it. The Denver Post has done nothing about it. Nobody, including our station, has done anything about it. So I finally got around to, and I wanted to wait until Yemi was done with his State of the City to see if he addressed it, and he didn't. And I'm like, how in the world can we have this horrible gang here and nobody wants to talk about it? That's a public safety issue. So I posted it today and I said, if you weren't listening to the Richard Randall show, you didn't hear the district attorney say that Tren de Agua is already here, or that the police chief says that Tren de Agua is already here. Kind of a humble brag, but a little bit of a jab as well. All right, I got a new clock. I got everything. I'm ready to go. David's ready to go.
I'm ready.
I got it. 3, two, one. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate, and it does it with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I've been telling our listeners for 10 years why home sellers should call you to sell their homes. So let's talk about the 6 big reasons why they should call you at 719-301-3900 to sell the biggest investment of their lives, their home.
Well, Richard, I find it interesting what makes people decide why choose one agent to do business with over another. And some of the reasons are personal, it might be close family friend, and I understand that. Or they just worked with them before and everything was fine and they figured it's a generic service. But what a lot of people don't know is that real estate, there is no job description. There is no how-to. There is no plan. There is no system with a majority of these real estate companies and these real estate brokerages and the agents. They all just kind of wing it and figure it out on their own. And so it's and the public doesn't know. They don't do it every day. They don't pay attention to that. They kind of expect that these agents are professional and they know what they're doing. Some do and some don't. So some of the things that we bring to the table is we offer a guaranteed sale. There's different levels of guarantees depending on your situation. If you're moving up to one of our listings, we can guarantee the sale of your home so you can buy your next home without a sale contingency. We actually have a whole bunch of cash buyers. I can pretty much take any property in any state and put it up on our cash offer application, and it will immediately spit out a half dozen or more offers on that home. So that is something that very few people bring to the table. And it brings that level of certainty for home sellers to the finish line. Okay, well, if the open market doesn't work, then I can go to this next way of doing it. And just so you know, the expectation in sellers' minds is that when I put my house on the market, it's definitely going to sell, right? Well, many will, but there's a large and a growing percentage of them that are not. That's why over 60% of home sellers are having to reduce their price right now because their plan is just not working. So that's what our guarantees bring to the table. And it gives you an opportunity to sell it without ever going on the market. And there is a certain level of comfort to knowing that you can do that. There are some people that cannot deal with buyers going through their house and picking it apart and saying, well, the carpet's old, or it needs too much updating, or the price is too high. And then half the time, they show up late, they show up early, they leave doors unlocked, they leave lights on. I deal with those complaints all the time. And if it's a family that they have to, make the beds every day. They have to make sure the house is picked up and looks good, and they have kids and dogs. It makes it very difficult. Or if they don't want to leave the house for the showing, which they don't really have to do that, but it's a little better to do it that way. A lot of people don't want to be there during showings, which I understand. So all those things are that's why we're seeing this growing number of the population going towards these selling their home to cash buyers instead of going through the traditional sales process right now. Plus, we have our own database of buyers. Right now, we have 27,970 buyers in waiting just on our little website. Typically, I can match my 100 and another vendor's 600 buyers that are a high match for your specific home and market directly to them. And many of those buyers will pay 100% of market value. So I've been working with these cash buyers now directly for several months. I've had quite a few closings with them, and they really are the easy button for selling. Some include a rehab budget if your home needs to be fixed up. Some homes don't need to be fixed up. Some people just want to sell fast and they don't want to deal with the traditional process, or they don't want to do the preparation to get it ready for sale. Either way, it's a lot easier than the uncertainty of having buyers come through your home, the uncertainty of knowing whether or not the buyer is going to qualify for the mortgage and go through with the sale. And actually, right now, 1 in 4 home sales are done with cash buyers. So my name is Barb Schlinker. I am the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice, and the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyers.com. And I'm sorry, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyers team. And what we're talking about right now is, why should a home seller decide to do business with one agent or another? A lot of people feel like, as an example, they're locked into a contract, that they signed a 6-month contract, that they must, execute that contract to the full end. But the truth is, if the agent didn't do what they promised they would do, you could get out of the contract, even if the promise was verbal. I was just talking to a seller the other day that had his house has his house on the market for more than 100 days. Nothing's going on. They don't like the pictures. It was funny because when I did my research, he reached out to me. I did my research before I contacted him, and immediately I could see that he didn't have professional photos taken. He didn't highlight the best features of the home. Like in the description, it said the home had views, but there was no photo of the views, right? So buyers are just going to move on because there's so many houses to choose from if you don't get those key things right. And the seller recognized it. So when I asked him, he goes, well, do we have to go through the whole term of the contract? I said, well, if they promised you something and didn't do it, even if it's verbal, that's enough to, based on paragraph 19 of the state form, you could ask them to cancel. We provide a cancellation guarantee anyway. We want happy customers, so it's not a problem with us. But in his case, he felt locked into a contract. And when I asked him if he promised him anything, he goes, he didn't promise anything. And then he went on to say, well, he said he was going to mow the yard because it's a vacant home, and take better pictures, and that didn't happen. I said, well, there you go. There's 2 things he said he was going to do that clearly he has not done. So there are ways out of it. It's still an awkward conversation for most sellers. And if you don't want to deal with any of that at all, then you just, pick a cash buyer. Some of these offers, there is this perception out there that when a seller accepts a cash offer, they're going to accept a lot less money. Somebody's going to steal their equity. But some of these offers are pretty good. If you go to barbhasthecashoffers.com, I posted a video about this, and it'll go into a little bit more detail if you want to find out about it. And if you are thinking of making a move, we would love to help you. Let me give you some other reasons. 81% of agents sell 3 or less homes a year. Those are local real statistics that I checked. I'm not just making that up. I actually looked at the numbers. So how does somebody that's only selling a home once every 4 months really know what's going on in the market? And how much have they studied about marketing? That would be the question that I would ask if I was a home seller. It gets back to that question of, why should we do business with you over the other choices? We tend to sell homes faster. And as the market moves on, some of the problems that a lot of people are running into is that their home is sitting on the market month after month after month. They're getting light showings or very few showings, and it's just not working, and they get frustrated. And the market is shifting. So if an agent is only selling one home every 4 months, this shift happened in the last 3 months, not 4 months. How would they even know? So those are good questions. And we offer all kinds of what we call satisfaction guarantees to our seller. If we don't communicate with you within 24 hours, you can we'll give you a discount. If we're not honest with our promises, you can fire us. If we're not reality based in our selling price or the timing, you get a discount. So we give all these guarantees because we want satisfied customers. We don't want people, it's not an easy thing to sell a house, especially in the open market. And we want customers to be happy and satisfied and sure that they have actually made the right choice. So you can find out more about it if you are thinking of making a move at barbhasthebuyers.com, or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach her at 719-301-3900. And we're talking with Barb about the 6 big reasons to call her at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Shift gears here a little bit, do Barb's favorite portion of the program, and that is your hot new listings. What do you have this week, Barb?
Absolutely. So I have a great home out in 35 acres on Powers Road, priced now at $369. Beautiful home, great detached building, perfect for a shop. We have a great home on Crandall Drive at $444,999. Has a finished basement, nice backyard, beautiful yard. A fantastic home on a Cowie Way on 5 acres. It's kind of like a small hobby farm with fresh carpet and great condition. We also have a beautiful home on 5 acres on Alta Plaza, and that one's priced in the mid-6s. We also have another home on 5 treed acres with an RV garage on Chalet Lane, priced in the mid-8s. And then my colleague Jen has a beautiful ranch with gorgeous views on McPherson Drive, priced at $1.25 million. And we have several lots for sale right now and more coming on the market. In fact, this week we're going to be featuring a by invitation only handyman special where we're offering a home for sale that needs some cosmetic work, but it's priced low enough that somebody could go in there and do the work themselves and either have a nice home to live in, or they could resell it and make a profit. So if you'd like to get on my list to be one of those buyers that gets an invitation only handyman special, go to barbhasthebuyers.com or give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. Barb Schlinker is the host of the program. And if you're thinking of making a move, call her at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or listen to the podcast on all of the popular platforms, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thanks for listening. To reach out to Barb, again, 719-301-3900. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, Barb. We'll talk with you next week.
Thank you. Have a fabulous weekend.
All right.
That was an ad lib thing, the handyman special thing.
Was it really? You wouldn't know it.